Good evening and welcome to the Fairfield City School District's Board of Education meeting for September 1st. Tonight we're going to start the meeting a little differently on a somber note. As many of you might have heard, Fairfield City Schools and Butler Tech lost a student this week, and so I would ask for a moment of silence in remembrance of Evan Huxall and his family. Please bow your heads. Thank you. Our condolences to the Huxall family. Please, Mrs. Lane, call the order.
Mr. Begley?
Here.
Ms. Birdie? Mr. Clark?
Present.
Mrs. Gundrum? Here. Mrs. Shorter?
Please join us. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Gundrum, will you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Gundrum. Superintendent Smith, presentations and resolutions.
Yes, Mr. Begley, members of the board, we do have two presentations this evening, and I'm going to make my way over to the podium for our first presentation. All right, so as many of you know, it has become a tradition to start our school year off with our annual Back to School Bash. And we were able to do so this year. And the numbers are staggering, and many of you were there. And this year, I think we gave away approximately 700 book bags, 1,200 hot dogs, 1,200 bottles of water, 750 donuts, 100 haircuts, and hundreds of horse rides, face paintings, and so on and so forth. So anyone that has ever experienced our Back to School Bash can't say enough about what a wonderful event that it has become. And it's a total team effort. As I said, many of you are there every single year. Many of our administrators, employees show up and assist us for that one day as well. However, this evening I am here to recognize one person who works so hard behind the scenes to pull all of that together. And trust me, it is a lot to pull together for one day for an event that it only lasts a few hours, but it is massive. So at this time, I'd like to ask Nina Rose to come forward so that we could honor her.
And give her a hand.
And I have a special proclamation that I would like to read. Whereas the Fairfield City School District is pleased to honor Nina Rose for distinguished service to the students and families of the district. Whereas Mrs. Rose has served the families of the district by coordinating the Back to School Bash. Whereas Mrs. Rose has volunteered countless hours, organizing volunteers, seeking donations, planning activities, and working tirelessly behind the scenes to make the event a tremendous success. Whereas experience teaches us that the district by itself cannot meet every need our students have, and the giving of oneself in service to another empowers the giver and the recipient. Now, therefore, I, Billy Smith, Superintendent of Fairfield City Schools, do hereby express sincere gratitude and appreciation to Nina Rose for effecting positive change with her volunteer efforts for the Back to School Bash. On behalf of the entire Fairfield City School District, I hereby present Mrs. Rose with a ceremonial key to the district. Congratulations. Here's your proclamation and key. And then this, just don't lose this key.
Yeah. No, I do a lot.
So let's take a picture right now. Thank you so much.
thank you so much for everything that you do on a day-to-day basis and with putting that together. I can only imagine the amount of planning and coordination that goes into that, and it's overwhelming in my mind what must have to go into that, so thank you so much. My daughter enjoys going to it every year. We didn't get to go this year, but she loves it, so thank you.
Nina, thank you so much. I've been to 2 of those, and they get bigger every year. And I just echo, I know how much work goes into things like that. And thank you so much for your dedication. Really appreciate it.
Really, their comments made me think that you've got a school year to plan for and so much to go on, and yet here is this event right before the school year begins and all the effort that it takes. And as they mentioned, it is amazing. Mr. Smith didn't mention Disney princesses, or it's too much, right?
That had her name all over it.
Did it? That was very well received, wonderful. And then this year, all kidding aside, we added the athletic piece to it and brought engaged student athletes now to give back to the community and to be there at the on and around the football field with the different fall sports, and I thought that was a wonderful addition as well. So thank you so much. Keep it up. It is becoming a real centerpiece of what we do here in the district.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nina.
Ready?
All right, on to our second presentation, and that would be a school safety update. So at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Crapo and Mr. Perry.
All right, well, good evening. I'd like to start by saying school safety traditionally means we don't give out keys to the district. But we just witnessed Mr. Smith give out a key to the district, so. School safety is one of those topics that go behind the scenes. We're constantly working, trying to make the district safer. How much do we air? How much do we advertise? But the ability to make the school safer is a huge piece to this. But what we really want is the students and the families to feel safe, right? So we are absolutely, we're trying to be as safe as we possibly can in the district. But what we really want to do at the end of the day is make sure everybody, not only we're doing our end by making it safe, that the visitors and everybody in this building feels safe. And those are 2 key components to this. To begin the presentation, we're going to start with our school resource officers. They are one of our greatest assets. We have 4 resource officers. At the high school and at Compass Elementary, we have Officer Rob Corner. He's got 24 years of law enforcement. In addition to Officer Corner, we have Kilo, our new dog, well, a year old at this point. But Kilo is trained to detect heroin, cocaine, meth, marijuana, prescription drugs, and gunpowder. And Randy Johnson is, again, the handler for this. At the freshman school, we have Zach Schust. He's new this year. He has 10 years of law enforcement, and he will also cover West Elementary. At Crossroads Middle School, the Academy, and Central Elementary, we have Todd Adamson with 26 years of law enforcement. And at Creekside and South, we have Kevin Mack at 20 years law enforcement. And each one of them, when I called to ask them their years of experience, said, why do you need to know? And it's really because I wanted to enforce. We have experienced law enforcement, and it's different than maybe patrolling the street, where these officers need to build relationships with the kids. They need to feel trusted by the kids. They're in their everyday lives, and they're a positive experience. It's not like you're being pulled over for speeding and you get mad. These guys are part of the family. They're part of the community, and it's a big deal. And to know that we have experienced law enforcement in our school, to me, is very proud. In addition to that, every year our SROs go to many different trainings. So it's not just a one-and-done deal where they work in the buildings. They do attend conferences at the state and national level to get better at their trade. They're constantly growing and constantly making us safer.
So, safety updates. Threat assessments have been completed at the building level, administration with our SROs. Window stickers with classroom numbers on them are visible from the outside. This was completed in the summer of 2020 by our SROs again. Complete removal of all analog radios. We are now 100% digital on all our handheld radios. We participate in the Handle with Care program, which is where notifications are sent from the police department to the buildings if a student's address was involved with either the police having to arrive or the EMS, with no details about why they were called to the residence, but just to notify them that maybe that student for the day might behave a little bit differently, and so we're aware of that situation so that we can adjust accordingly. We complete 3 annual safety drills and 1 theoretical drill with the students each year. We have purchased new interior locks for the interior classrooms at Crossroads Middle School. This is a perfect example of the district safety meetings that happen on a regular basis with our SROs and building administration, that it came up in a roundtable discussion. We looked into it, agreed with the assessment. That is not installed to date, but the order has been placed. We're running into the supply chain issues with that, but that will be completed as soon as it lands. And in addition, safety teams at all secondary buildings in compliance with House Bill 123. Here's the picture. 2 items we'd like to highlight that are recent changes. These are vestibule window dressings. Those are on the left. Those are on the interior of the glass of all vestibules. That is to create a visual barrier into the school itself. So if a person is buzzing in and then they used to come into the vestibule, they used to be able to see somewhat into the school itself, but even though the doors were locked, this creates a more inviting kind of district messaging, which is consistent district-wide. And in a few of the schools, we even took the opportunity to be able to label where the main office door is, et cetera, due to experience from the buildings. The one exception to that I'd like to highlight is South Elementary, because of their building setup. Actually, they do have doors in the front that do not have the vestibule behind it. The vestibule is actually all the way to the right. So we went ahead and put the same material on the exterior of those windows and doors to make sure that, again, we have that visual barrier into the building. And then on the right is directions for when a visitor comes to enter the building while school is in session, how they have to buzz in. And we added Spanish to that to try and help brand our signage across the district and be consistent.
Some of the interior additions that we did last year, we added the Halo Smart Sensor in our secondary restrooms. So at the high school level in the freshman building. While you're in the restroom, it can detect various instances that are taking place. And if it triggers an alarm, which we have set the parameters at the district level, a text message will be sent out to, at the high schools, for example, it goes to the administration, the hall monitors and so forth. But we can pick who it goes to in a text message, and it says report to the 1400 men's restroom because this is occurring. Some of those items that it can detect would be elevated sounds, and again, we set those parameters at what is determined as an elevated sound. Someone just shouting, or somebody that is shouting, or if there's a gunshot, obviously. So we can set the parameters. Hazardous chemicals, air quality changes, including vaping, smoking, and masking. It even picks up the vape, whether it's a nicotine vape or whether it's a THC or CBD vape. And it will pick up the masking, which is if a student were to vape and then spray an aerosol in the air to deter it from picking it up, it'll pick that up and let us know. And environmental changes such as temperature, humidity, pressure, and air quality. That actually came into play in the high school. We had one restroom that was elevated humidity or something. It ended up being an air duct issue. So these are in the high school, in the freshman building, and the academy restrooms. This next one is brand new, hot off the books. We've got Raptor Visitor Management. So before this year, when you would want to come into the building, beyond the office, you would sign a clipboard and state your reason. You know, you'd sign why you're here and whatnot, and then when you left, you'd sign out. This year, when you come into a school building for the first time, you are going to be asked, and to go beyond the office, you're going to be asked for your identification. The identification will be scanned. It's in the bottom right-hand corner, but it drops it down, and it's going to scan it against a sexual predator list. If an alert would come up, it comes up on the computer screen, and it will automate a phone call, and then we would notify the administration, and we have procedures in case that would take place. If that doesn't happen, traditionally, it logs it on the computer screen that this person is visiting for this reason. This is the location they're supposed to be going to, and it prints out on the bottom left-hand corner. You'll see a little badge. It's a sticker, but it's got your picture. It says what time you checked in and where you're supposed to be. So instead of a visitor badge, which was nice, it was a great visual, this also tells where you're supposed to be. So if you're wandering around the school in the arena and you're supposed to be in the pack, you're at the wrong side of the building. This is new this year. It's installed in each of the buildings, and it's really there to replace the clipboard, but the administration has the ability at any time to pull up a report, who's in my building, why are they in my building, and you know, they've got a reference, a digital reference of that, and not simply a paper copy. So this was a big deal.
So next topic is cybersecurity. Felt it was necessary to touch base on this. This is a topic we don't talk about a lot, but we do know that Jeff McKinney and the technology team work hard in this area of security. They have added multi-factor authentication to all VPN accounts. VPN accounts are those that are provided to certain individuals who need to access the district network remotely. So that has been added. They run weekly simulated phishing tests on critical staff at the admin building to test how they are handling phishing emails. And if it's handled incorrectly, then they are assigned training. I can say that I have not received training, but I cannot make that statement about my partner to the right. We have SWOCA, which is our internet provider, running annual security audits on our network and servers to look for any vulnerabilities and working together to make sure that they're closing those gaps whenever identified. In addition, in the future, they are looking to roll out a multi-factor authentication to all users that connect to Microsoft Office 365. This is an ongoing, extensive process that is hoped to be completed by the end of this year. This again will add a second layer of authentication if an account password is compromised.
So my favorite part of the presentation is what are we doing that doesn't cost anything? All the time you hear, what is the greatest way that you can protect your house, your building, your car, your goods, whatever you're trying to protect, and it's simply lock the door. Lock the door, don't allow it to open, monitor who's opening the door, how long is it open. And so that's one of the biggest pieces to this is we are really pushing this message of locking doors, making sure that they're not propped open for recess or for arrival, or if they are open, they have an adult there monitoring it, and that's a big piece to this movement is just putting a focus on that. We have regular scheduled safety meetings throughout the year. We meet as a team with district administrators, SROs, and we really just talk about our annual threat assessments. So what's going on in the building, where can we improve, what's the greatest need, and just get it out there. And these are individuals that are in the building on a daily basis. We also have our regular scheduled meetings with our SROs, with Mr. Smith, and that's meeting with the police specifically on how can we improve our safety and security of our buildings. We also, when we were touring the buildings, trying to figure out where can we improve this summer, we did notice, and I put this up here because some of our buildings were built in a day and age where we called them kickstands, but if you open an exterior door, you have the ability to prop the door. And that was accepted and that was actually asked for back in the day. And nowadays, that's another way to prop a door, whether accidentally or it's just inviting. It's there, so why not use it? And so we had all of those removed in the entire district. And so it's just an example of how we are always looking to improve and always change. And then, like I said, continued conversations. So we want to make sure that what we're doing impacts the greatest need. And so involving not just district office staff or just the SROs, but at the building level, the people that are living at that building every day, if they don't feel safe, what is it that we can do to help them out and where can we grow? So we wanted to update on the grants. There's a lot of attention going out for the safety grants this year. They're big dollars. Last year, we applied for 7 of our schools to receive a safety grant that would award up to $100,000 per building. The state had roughly $100 million to give out in 2021, and I say roughly because I don't know it's 92, 95. But out of the entire state, it's not 92 districts, it's 92 schools. And so not a lot of schools got that money. And something was realized that the money wasn't divvied out to everybody, and so all of a sudden we got an email that says, we're getting it. And so we got $350,000 because they gave us $50,000 per school for 7 schools. And there are some parameters around that, but what we're asking for falls within those parameters. And the timelines are strict, but we've started this process early on and we're ready to go with that money as soon as we get the go-ahead. Our greatest need at this point is our badge system. We want to make all of our doors that we can in each building accessible for the badge system where you can scan into the building. With that, you know who's in your building. You know who scanned in your building, how long they were there, when they left. It's all there. It's not a master key floating around the district. And so that's our greatest need at this point is trying to update all the doors in the district. The second greatest need is our security cameras. There are certain buildings, the newer buildings, that have the upgraded newer security cameras, and then there's the older buildings that we definitely need to work on. And so those are our two tickets that we are working with for the $350,000 for the grant. For future plans, wanted to let you know kind of like where we plan on going. Number 1 is our district-wide badge system that includes all employees. We want bus drivers, kitchen staff, we want everybody to have a badge. And that, again, is the ability to get into a door without using a code or a key and knowing it'll be monitored, who's in the building, when they were there, what door can they use. We can narrow it down to individual doors, individual time frames, individual days. Doors in all buildings to be electronic and work with our badge system. So we really want to focus on not just, right now, all the entry doors in the district. Every building, the entry door, you have the ability to badge in. But we really want all the doors so that we get rid of the elimination of a key, the kickstand component, all that stuff, and just modernize it. And then finally is our security cam upgrades throughout the district. We really want to focus on that, making sure we got the latest and greatest that we need to keep our buildings safe. All right, so there's a lot that we just went over. Some big ticket items, some smaller ticket items, but again, at the end of the day, we want everybody to know we are trying to make our buildings as safe as we can, and our end goal is when you enter the building, you feel safe. So, any questions?
Yeah, questions, board members?
I have one. Great presentation. Thank you so much for putting this together. I know it makes me feel much better, and I think I speak for one of my fellow board members. And my one question is just pertaining to IT. Do we have the capacity for the extra load that's going to be occurring as a result of actually having the badge access system? Is that going to be an internal monitored system by a separate company, or are we going to have to take on those IT issues that are going to come up as a result of it?
Absolutely. That is a topic that we have been discussing with Jeff for quite some time. The initial answer I will provide you is for installation, especially of the badge system itself for the doors, we are looking at using an outside company for that, and that's just for speed to get it done and get it done quickly. We're hoping that if we're able to do that and do it and have it installed properly, then afterwards, while we're living in the program, after warranty, et cetera, that our tech team would be the first layer of defense. If something doesn't work, that they could troubleshoot at entry level. But then if it is a greater level, that we have a relationship with the vendor to be able to step in and help manage that. Another piece is Jeff addressed, with the second tier being the camera systems. Labor goes, if labor is included with installing the camera systems, including the licensures and everything else that comes with that, it will not go as far. So he has asked that the plan be that we actually purchase equipment for the camera systems with the grant money as much as possible, and then allow his team, as they can, to install, being the second tier. Again, as needed, we would be able to pull in a vendor as needed, but Jeff is very confident that that is not as extensive as the badge readers on the doors, because that can get very complicated, especially if a door currently does not have electric associated with it, that it does get very complicated and time consuming, which again is why the vendor is necessary for that stage. The other question that I had that I believe you're touching on is the stress on the network, including the ports needed for cameras and the badges. Much to our surprise and pleasure, Jeff has been working on that the past 3 years and been beefing up our system to prepare for this day. So we were very pleased to hear that. So he has done a great job behind the scenes doing what he can to prepare for a day that I believe he knew was coming. And so I feel very confident that we are more than ready for what's coming.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Other questions, comments?
Thank you very much for putting this together. It's a lot of information, it's a lot of very useful information, but I'm sure it's probably like a fine line to dance between what you can put out there and what you don't want everybody to know. So thank you so much for doing that. That being said, I do have some specific questions that I think, maybe it would be better for me to ask Mr. Smith and get answers about, so that it's not everywhere, So, but I think it's great. This is very encouraging and very, very reassuring.
Thank you.
Add to that, thank you. It was a great presentation. Technology changes so quick. And kudos to Jeff for getting ahead of the game and being prepared for that. The Halo, awesome. I mean, that's pretty high-tech stuff, and it's good to know that we have that. Even the noise level, as well as smoking and that. Can't say enough about the Raptor visitor management piece. That is huge. That just to make sure people are where they are, like you said, walking around and saying I'm lost. It could be they are, could be they're not. Scoping, scouting, the kickstand piece. I know some fire marshals that have sort of outlawed, I guess you'd call it, in a lot of churches and public buildings for that exact reason. They accidentally get kicked down and it's open this far, and it's an invite for somebody to come in. So I'm glad to hear the safety part of it, that both of you, and of course, again, Jeff, for being ahead of it on the IT side and just for keeping our kids safe. It's obviously very, very important, and you guys are on top of it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback both those comments. The Raptor visitor management system, I think, is a great thing. I can remember years ago signing the clipboard and getting a bright yellow visitor sticker and putting that here. And so, yes, that identified me, but certainly not where we want to be. And this takes us much closer to that. And to your concerns, this by no means was a full presentation of all that we have done and will continue to do in our buildings. So let's please ask your questions later to alleviate any concerns you had. But so that the public knows, there's a lot that goes into security at these buildings, dual entry doors, on and on and on. So you're on top of it, and I appreciate that very much, and would echo the comments about Jeff McKinney and his IT team. Top notch. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.